want to see the recording on your end, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
All right. Cool. All right. So next question. Now your path has been a bit different than everyone I've interviewed so far. You've gone on to have what looks like a very successful career as an educator, principal, and educational consultant. Jaramogi passed, the founder passed in 2000, and that's when things started to change a bit for a lot of us in the church. So you were eventually excommunicated from the church. Can you give a little bit more as to what was going on at that time that led up to the excommunication?
Yes, but can I step back just for a minute?
Always.
In terms of, I am a consultant now. I have my doctoral degree in curriculum and instruction.
Okay.
I have a master's degree in curriculum and instruction, as we said in my bio.
Yep.
And so most of this occurred during the latter part of Jaramogi Obebe's life.
Okay.
Okay, so for those 30 years, I had been in the shrines of the Black Madonna, living on church property and doing everything I could, because the covenant again was security from the cradle to the grave.
Okay.
He had gotten older, and I remember I was at his house. We had a ministers' meeting, and I always stayed after to clean up because there were refreshments. I remember Cardinal Chewy always vacuuming. Then I would go into the kitchen and clean up everything.
Okay.
I did that because my mother said, wherever you go, leave a place better than you found it.
Amen.
But the Holy Patriarch was getting older,
Yeah.
and I just felt a responsibility to clean it up.
Okay.
So one of those nights, as I was leaving, he stopped me and he said, Monifa, get your doctoral degree, because I don't know what niggas are going to do when I'm gone.
Right.
Prior to that, though, he told me that I had gone as far as I could with him Total House, with the knowledge that I have. And he was the one who suggested that I go back to school.
Okay.
The first time that I went to school here in Detroit at Wayne State University, I didn't complete that. I went 3.5 years, and with my young mind said, I can make money instead of going to school.
Okay.
And so I got a job, right?
Okay.
So I think that answers the question too, why I wasn't in the college cadre.
Okay.
Because by the time I got to the shrine, I had already given up those 3.5 years of college.
You were a bit older, yes.
Yes, I'll be over. Okay, so what happened, he told me to get my doctoral degree because again, he didn't know what was going to happen when he was gone.
What year was that approximately, Cardinal?
I believe it was 1998.
Oh, so it's close. Okay.
Close to his passing.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Okay. So unfortunately, he passed in 2000, which devastated all of us.
Yes, ma'am.
Our leader, our founder was gone. So things began to happen within the church, such as Atlanta. I believe that was the first place property was being sold without the knowledge of the membership.
Right.
And I also remember a meeting being held in Houston, Texas, a church congregational meeting.
Yep.
And people asked all different types of questions. I don't know if you were there.
I was there. Yeah, it was in the Chapel of the Black Messiah. Yes, ma'am.
In the Chapel of the Black Messiah.
Yep.
And the questions that were asked were, will the property be sold in Houston? And we were told no, because that property is too valuable.
Right.
Then we were told that we couldn't use African names anymore. And I completely remember my Chaiya saying, but I have it on my birth certificate.
That's right.
So what is that about? So these changes that were taking place, I did talk with the leader at that time. And I mentioned to him that people had given their entire lives to this.
Yep.
So if you're going in a different direction, you need to educate them. You need to educate us as to the direction that you're going in.
Right.
So there was, from the pulpit, propaganda or statements that the old school were in the way of the new school.
Okay.
And also that the church had outgrown us.
Hmm.
So people heard that and felt devalued by that.
Sure.
But I did talk to him and I said, if the old school is blocking the new school, then according to the 10-year projection, we're supposed to go to New York, Kansas City,
Mm-hmm.
and someplace else.
Right.
So I said, form cadres with these old schoolers that you call older schoolers, send us to a city, only support us for a year, and we'll take BC in there.
Right.
So that idea was not accepted.
Okay.
The second thing that I did was develop an essay with 2 columns, the problem and the resolution,
Okay.
to present to the Assembly of Cardinals.
Right.
Because I said, let me be part of the solution.
Mm-hmm.
So one of those problems was the covenant from the cradle to the grave.
Mm-hmm.
And with what was happening, people felt betrayed.
Right.
Well, how is that going to be addressed? And maybe it can be addressed this way.
Mm-hmm.
I presented that to I wasn't there, but I submitted it to the Assembly of Cardinals. And I remember telling Cardinal Chewy, I hope that the Assembly doesn't see this as subversive. This is I'm offering problems and I'm offering resolutions.
But weren't you on the Assembly?
Yes, I was on the Assembly, but the Assembly was taking a different direction.
Okay.
And honestly, I became physically sick going to the Assembly of Cardinals meeting.
Okay.
Why? People were being evicted from the residence hall.
Right.
Secondly, our children who were graduated from high school were supposed to get our support, but they found no space, no room, no opportunities to be leadership in the shrine.
Right.
And so my niece had graduated and she was about to enter college.
That's Leger?
Not Leger.
Okay.
Yes. She was told that in order to stay at the residence hall, she had to mop 5,400 and 5,500, those apartment halls. And so she attempted to do what she was supposed to do, but it was told that she was not doing that. And she was told to move. At that time, I began to synchronize my move out of the residence hall after 30 years.
Okay.
So here I'm looking at the young people and 2 other things that I recommended. First of all, I said that the young people are going to college and they're going to get a trade. So they don't have the same assignment that we have, missionary outreach and community outreach. They don't have that assignment. Their assignment is go to school and be successful.
That's right.
And we support them.
Yep.
But everybody on the Assembly didn't agree with that. And so again, there was this discord. So I remember telling Kamathi, I feel like I'm from Venus and you all from Mars, because this is not what I've been taught.
Right.
It's not what I understand.
And up to that point, Cardinal, it's safe to assume that everybody was taught the same thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Just for clarity.
Yes, everybody was taught the same thing.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the one thing that I offered, because Jaramogi had passed, I got my doctoral degree, and I told Kamathi, I can't let the doctoral degree go to waste.
Right.
I have to do something. He said, well, go ahead on and get a job. But Jaramogi Baby had already approved me working as a graduate assistant. So when I got my doctoral degree, I began to work at the University of Houston downtown.
Right.
So here I am. I've been at Essenes for 30 years. I'm about to make a major shift in my life. So I offered this suggestion. I said, since I am working full-time, I am willing to give 10% of my gross for the sustainability of the Essenes. You don't have to take care of me. You don't have to pay my maintenance fee, my rent. I would do all of that. But that this may be an opportunity for people who are leaving the Essenes to contribute to the sustainability of the Essenes.
That's right.
So he had one other person on the assembly to counter that, and that person didn't agree with it.
Mhm.
And so that idea wasn't accepted either.
That sounds like a win-win. It's not like you are asking them to do anything. You're willing to give what you've earned to ensure that certain people's lives or lifestyles can be maintained.
Exactly.
How is that a losing proposition for anybody?
I still don't understand it.
Okay.
And I thought that it would also open the doors or create opportunities for those other people who may have to leave the Essenes.
Sure.
This would just be another level of sustaining ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so that wasn't agreed upon either. He didn't make that final decision. He allowed the other person to make the decision.
Okay.
And so here I am, being in this for all my life, dedicated everything that I could to it.
Yeah.
And now it's going into a direction that I don't quite understand.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2004, as my father said, daughter, there's one thing I know about you. If you believe in it, you're going to stay there. Mm-hmm. And so at this point, I believed in the philosophy, the teachings, and the program, but I did not believe in the actions.
Sure.
So in 2004, I moved out of the residence hall. Mm-hmm. The battle was no longer mine. Mm-hmm. I fought as far as I could for the children and for what I believed was Black Christian nationalism. So I moved out in 2004. Mm-hmm. And I really stopped going to those Assembly of Cardinals meetings, again, because it made me physically sick to go to. Yep. I went to one meeting and they had put an eviction sign on one of the members' doors. And so I said, you can't evict a person like that. Mm-hmm. You have to go through the protocol, the state protocol. Mm-hmm. You have to give them at least 30 days notice of an eviction. Right. I was told, well, we're a church. We don't follow those laws. And I said, what? Because Jeremiah Baby Ajamin taught us we follow the law of the land. Mm-hmm. And this is the law of the land. Right. So this I don't understand at all. Mm-hmm. So I got in those type of protocol conflicts until I felt like I was just fighting alone. Right. So 2004, I move out. And is it a scary experience for me? It is totally.
It had to be, because you had known a different lifestyle all your life, all your adult life.
I felt secure and safe and safe in the community. Right. I had given, and I believe most people would know that I gave 150%. Sure. I believe most people would know that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I moved, purchased a house in Humble, Texas. My husband passed in 2003. I moved out in 2004. Okay. And he told me, and I'm just going to say what it is. He told me, Monifa, Kamathi doesn't know what to do with you.
Osni? Awesome, brother. Awesome, brother.
Yeah, he's a good man.
Awesome, brother.
Good
yes,
man.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And so it didn't click with me, mm-hmm. The magnitude of what he was saying.
Sure.
And then even prior to that, Kamathi told me, you don't know how much power you have. Hmm. I wasn't thinking about power. Yeah. I was thinking about doing what I was supposed to do. That's right. And do it well.
That's right.
So that was another statement which I did not delve into, mm-hmm. to find out why is he telling me this. Right. So here I am, I'm out living in my own house, sleeping in the guest room, too afraid to sleep in the master bedroom. Mm-hmm. I have a steak knife on the lamp stand. Like, if anybody gets in the house, if they get that close, it's over with anyway. It's been a long time. Yeah. Until I finally said, I can't be afraid in the house that I live in. Mm-hmm. And so I changed that. In 2000, I'm working at the university all this time. Okay. And I do come to church service, but I'm not involved in these leadership Assembly Cardinal meetings. Right. So I decided to move back to Detroit in 2007.
Okay.
My only grandson was here at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so my son said, Mama, what I got to do? Have a baby for you to stay?
So be it.
Yes. So I was afforded the opportunity to become a principal
Okay.
at Winans Academy of Performing Arts. And my daughter runs the management company there. So she just threw my name in the hat because they were looking for a principal.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I got hired there.
Okay. Okay.
So I moved into Detroit in 2007. And I became a principal. And if I attended any service, it had to be a special service or it was periodic. I didn't attend church on a consistent basis.
So the climate in Detroit was the same as it was in Houston?
I would never know because I didn't move back into the residence hall when I moved back to Detroit.
Sure.
I moved into a house.
Okay.
So I'm doing my business, minding my own business.
Mm-hmm.
In 2008, my niece calls me. I can see the day. I can see where I was in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, Auntie, you know you've been expelled from the shrine? And I said, I have no idea. She said, you and about 7 other people have been expelled from the shrine.
Yep.
And it's in the bulletin. And so she sent me a copy of the bulletin. I was shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And my soul was pierced.
Yep.
For a couple of reasons. First, I don't know what the charges are. I've never known what the charges are.
To this day.
To this day.
Yeah.
Secondly, if Jeramogi Abebe was alive, he would have at least called me.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have at least said, Monifa, I need to talk with you.
Right.
Or we will have a hearing for you.
Yeah.
I, after 30 years, was afforded none of that.
Right. Now, let me ask you really quickly, Cardinal. There are, if I remember correctly, there are 5 to 7 people on the Assembly of Cardinals, right? 5 to 7, is that about right? Did you have no allies that saw your way of thinking? No one that said, I agree with Monifa's position on what she's trying to do and submit and find answers? Everybody was anti your efforts?
You're right. I like the word allies.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay. Okay.
And I want that to lead into what I'm about to say now.
Okay.
Because people that I've worked with for 25 years, 30 years in groups,
mm-hmm.
many of them I was their group leader.
Yeah.
Or the youth staff.
Mm-hmm.
I can't recall one person, maybe because I wasn't in anyone else's presence,
mm-hmm.
stood up and said, no, you're wrong. That's not Monifa.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though I may have forgiven 90% of the time,
mm-hmm.
I've not forgotten.
Right. Right.
I have not forgotten. And I have not forgotten that I didn't hear from anyone in leadership,
mm-hmm.
from any region. Not a phone call. Now, can you explain what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what's happening? I did not receive one phone call from anyone in leadership.
Do you think that you think they were fearful of what might happen to them if they did speak out on your behalf? You think that's what it was, or something else?
Yeah, that could be a possibility.
Yeah.
Or that we have the structure
mm-hmm.
and the BCN code,
mm-hmm.
About subversiveness and the hierarchy and the chain of command.
Sure.
We had that structure in the church, so that may have stopped some people from doing that. Yeah. I'm just saying may have, so I don't have a conclusive answer for you.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happened, all I could do was go to God and say, you know my heart,
mm-hmm.
and you know why I did what I did in terms of dedicating my life to the shrines of the Black Madonna.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked God to take care of me.
Right.
That was my prayer. And angels were put on my path where I was taken care of. Okay. So just the last thing though.
Okay.
I did write a letter to every assembly of cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them that what they that they know not what they do, and did not even afford me a hearing.
Right. Common courtesy and common decency, given the fact that you're given 30 years, if nothing else, it should have at least been that, if nothing else.
It should have at least been that.
Right.
And it really should have at least been that coming from the leader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've known him for 30, for a long time.
Yeah.
So I did not get that respect at all. That's why I say I have forgiven 90%,
right,
but I haven't forgotten.
Right.
And so I wrote a letter, the same letter to each assembly, and told them there's no need to investigate me because they're not going to find anything that I did.
Right.
And everything that I presented, I try to follow the protocol of the shrines of the Black Madonna.
Right.
And so I said, you know not what you do. And like Jesus said, forgive them. Well, I said 90%. I don't even reach out. I don't even know if I have 90% forgiveness right now.
Amen.
And so I told them that from this point on, you will not hear from me. And that was it. The only reason I went back to a service is because one of the young girls who came up through Akiba land saw me at an African festival. She said, Monifa, can you please come to church because my boyfriend is preaching.
Okay.
And I said, yes, I will come.
Okay.
Nonetheless, that boyfriend proposed to her. She didn't know it.
Okay.
On that Sunday, he preached and then he proposed to her.
And this is in Detroit or Houston?
In Detroit.
In Detroit, okay.
In Detroit. When I went in, I sat next to a member. I'm not going to say her name.
Okay.
But she's been a member for a long time. The minute she saw me, she started crying. And she said, I've been praying that you come back. And I looked at her and I said, I came back for her.
That's right.
For the person who invited, that's who I came back for this service.
Right.
And so not only did that happen, but Akiba land had a reunion in Atlanta. And they told Kamathi that if Monifa can't come, we're not going to have it.
Okay.
So I got a phone call from a young sister in Atlanta. Okay. And she asked me to come to Akiba land reunion. And I told her, I don't know if I'm coming. Right. I don't know if I'm coming. I'm a principal. I don't know if I'm going to make it there. Then she calls again, are you going to make it? And I said, I still have not decided whether I'm going to come to Akiba land's reunion.
Yeah.
Then I talked to a dear friend here. She said, Monifa, you don't know? I said, no, what? She said, they're going to honor you when you come to Atlanta. And they weren't even going to have it unless you could come.
Right.
And so I did go.
Okay.
And they did give me this beautiful glass award.
Yeah.
And they honored many people who had worked with them.
Okay.
So I told, I think maybe the last thing I want to add to this, I told Kamathi even before then that a person can be written out of the history of the shrine by the stroke of a pen. And when that was put in the bulletin, that is what I felt. Written out of the history of the shrine by the stroke of a pen.
Yeah.
But things were in mysterious ways. Because I don't know if I should tell this yet, because I think you're going to talk about my book, the latest one. I don't know if you want me to wait to that or if you want me to talk about it now. Talk about it now. Okay.
Go with your heart, whatever you feel. And if it's something that I was going to cover, I just won't cover it because you would cover it here. So we'll feel it out. Okay.
So here I am doing my thing here in Detroit, enjoying my family and friends, and still that spear is still affecting my soul.
Yes.
So in 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, I am sitting at my house and I'm reflecting on those 20 years since Jaramogi Baby has been gone. And I'm reflecting on the commitment and sacrifice of many people who made these institutions, created these numerous institutions.
Mhm.
I talked to one friend and she said, Monifa, we don't have anything to show for our sacrifices.
Mm.
I said, but we can't forget that we did this.
That's right.
And that cannot be swept under the carpet.
Right.
We did this. We were successful with this. So the first thing I started doing, Tamani, is I began to write letters to Jaramogi Baby Ajami
Okay.
from now to the past.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I was focusing on qualities of his leadership, but I was telling my own personal stories.
Okay.
And as I was writing, I cried. As I was writing, I cried more. As I continued to write, Dear Jaramogi, I cried more.
Okay.
I must have written maybe about 40, 50 letters.
Wow.
And I sent those letters to a publisher just to assess what I had written.
Okay.
And she said, she gave me a lot of comments, a lot of suggestions for storytelling.
Mhm.
And she said, if you can change just the direction of this, just kind of think about it,
Mhm.
that you will have a book that's a prototype for people today.
Yep.
And she said that many people didn't know Black Christian nationalism, didn't know the shrines of the Black Madonna.
That's right.
And she was just mesmerized just by the letters.
Yeah.
That catharsis is what I call my catharsis.
Okay.
Helped me to write the latest book, Memoir of a Black Christian Nationalist. If I had not gone through that catharsis,
Mhm.
faced my maybe frustration, faced my grief, and my sorrow,
Yeah.
I don't think I would have been able to produce Memoir of a Black Christian Nationalist. And the last thing I'll say about that is I felt compelled to do it, driven by the spirit of Jaramogi Baby Ajman and driven by the Holy Spirit. And that's, I think in a nutshell, what happened.
In a nutshell. That's a big old nutshell.
Big nutshell.
Okay, so before I have I had 3 or 4 questions in there. The first one, as we said last night, we'll be throwing out these terms, think people know what we're talking about. What do you mean by Essenes? People don't know what that is.
The Holy Order of Essenes was a group of committed and full-time Black Christian nationalists who did not get paid any salary, but who was supported with food, shelter, and clothing, care for children, safety, nurturing, but no salary.
Right.
So the Holy Order of the Essenes was based on the historical Essenes
Mhm.
that existed between that Greek domination of Israel and the Roman domination of Israel.
Okay.
And what this was discovered, their lives were discovered by a young shepherd boy who found the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1948. And the Dead Sea Scrolls describe the life of the Essenes, who set themselves apart from the general African Jewish population, so that they could live a life worthy of the covenant relationship with God. Their belief was, if we can show and prove to God that we can be a righteous people, then God would intervene into their lives and help deliver them from Roman oppression. So the Holy Order of Essenes was named after them.
A very powerful, sacred, and important group, to say the least. Yes.
Yes, and anointed by God.
And anointed by
God
God.
is in this. God is in this. And Jaramogi Baby Ajman created, that was his idea, to create the Holy Order of Essenes.
Okay. So you said that you were told, or that it was said from the pulpit, that the church had outgrown the membership. Is that what was stated?
Yes.
Did you ever get clarification on what that outgrowth was? Because I'm still not understanding what the old school versus the new school. I don't understand what that means.
I am not sure of what they meant in terms of the church has outgrown its membership, but it wasn't only said in Houston, it was said in Detroit and Atlanta. Then in terms of the old school, we're talking about Essenes. We're talking about full-time people.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you outgrow that?
How do you outgrow that? Plus, how are they in the way?
Right.
Many Essenes were made to feel bad because they didn't pay any maintenance fee for living in the residence halls. But that was the covenant, security from the cradle to the grave if you give yourself full time.
Right.
In practical measures, the shrine would not have been able to grow
At all.
without full-time people.
That's right. That's right.
And
And the shrine couldn't afford to pay people those kinds of salaries for the expertise that they brought.
That's it.
Yeah.
And Jeremiah Baby Ajman made that clear.
Mm-hmm.
We knew what we were getting into when we signed into the communal budget. He made it very clear. And so we said, well, if it's going to build a nation, if it's going to create a better world, if it's going to liberate us, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, many of us said we will do this. And that's how the church was able to expand. That's how I was able to get full-time missionary outreaches.
That's right.
That's how you had 24/7 security, that you had people cooking in the communal dining halls.
That's right. All of that, everything.
24/7 nursery, 24/7 Children's Institute, and Total House. That was because of full-time people.
That's right.
Culture Center, full-time people.
Everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So full-time people were now, in my feelings, were being viewed as obstacles now to the church.
So the revolutionary makes the revolution possible. And at some point, you're going to shame the revolutionary for carrying on the revolution. Okay, all right, that's absolutely ridiculous. And you know, Cardinal, when I started, when the verbiage of the church started to change, that we can't say that the creed or the prayer of the Black Messiah, in my head, you know, my simple question was, when did freedom happen? Did Negroization stop permeating? Why are we changing things that has brought us this far, that has made us who we are, when we're not free yet? There's no point in trying not to be Black or revolutionary or whatever we were trying not to be. And when you look at where we were at the height of our membership and where things are now, you have to wonder, did the church sell its soul for some reason?
And that's what people had in their minds.
Yeah.
Logically, you would think that. We weren't a dumb people.
At all.
You know, we made the decisions to do this.
Yes, ma'am.
Information presented to us, commitment submitted to us. We made decisions to do this. This was not a dumb group of people. And so Jeremiah Baby Ajman, he didn't mind us asking questions.
Right.
I ask him questions all the time. Why? Why are we doing this? Or, well, anyway, I'm just going to use this story. In Houston, when I first went to Houston, and my baby Tala was just a little bitty thing, and I looked into them total houses at 5702, and I saw that they were in shabby conditions. They didn't have the right furniture. They didn't have an environment for little children or for early elementary children. I went straight to Jeremiah. And I said, what I tell him? The nation is a contradiction. And he said, why did you say that? I said, because you said we were going to live a better life than this. But when I see the children's environment, it's not true.
Right.
And he said, what do you mean? I said, the furniture there is not good. It's shabby.
Yeah.
These are children who need a stimulating environment.
Right.
He heard that. The very next day, he sent Cardinal Nandi and me to go and go furniture shopping. For every total house. There were 4. And then I bought desks and academic materials. We said the dining room would be just a study hall with books and math games, maps and certain things like that. So I said that to say that he heard that
Mhm.
and then he acted upon it.
Okay.
And I think I wanted to tell that to prove some kind of point, because we're dealing with full-time people now feeling
Made
devalued.
it feel bad because they were full time, because they made that commitment. And it's ironically sad, travesty, that you the cadre, the Essenes, they made the church what it was. The church wouldn't be the church without those people.
Exactly.
And the fact that they were made to feel anything less than royalty is sinful. It really is. You've known Jaramogi Kimati for over 30 years, right?
Yes.
So, and I want you to think about this, because you might have to think back about the relationship, but thinking about him over the time that you've known him, when you think about what happened to you, your personal situation, and how you were removed, unjustly removed, and you think about the character of a person that could do that kind of thing to someone like you, when you look back on the Kimati you've known over the years, are you shocked by that behavior? Or sometimes we don't see something because we're in it, but when we look back on it, we realize there was evidence and or sign and or indications that this person could be this kind of person?
That's a good question. Probably because we're in it.
Yes.
I didn't see it.
Yes, ma'am.
He used to be, I was shrine administrator, trying to administrate on the east side of Detroit.
Okay.
He was the Maccabee that worked under my administration.
Okay.
And so we also in Houston, we went to the Bishop's Council's meetings. You know, we were always in leadership meetings.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know that it was drastically different from Jaramogi Ajamin.
Yeah, it was a complete 180, wasn't it?
It was a complete 180.
Yeah.
We were told not to wear the uniforms, red and black. As you said, not to say the creed.
That's right.
Take the Kuta Futa meditative response out of the worship service. Can't use African names. They're too hard to pronounce.
All of a sudden.
The one thing that struck me also was he said we were no longer oppressed. And that just shocked me 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I can give any logic to it, I can't. He has followers. He still has people in the shrines of the Black Madonna.
Yes, ma'am.
He still has leadership.
Yeah.
And but I know I don't fit into that leadership, because that's not what I was trained for.
Is it BCN? Based on your understanding of BCN, I don't know if the church is still, are they still Black Christian nationalists the way it was defined and laid out by Jaramogi?
What I saw in terms of the website is that it's a best self theology.
Okay.
That, and I'm unapologetically, I'm saying this. I don't know what that is.
Right. Amen.
Even if you define it. Oprah Winfrey talks about best self.
Yes, ma'am.
Any preacher may stand up and talk about best self. I've never known best self as a theology. A theology is a study, is man's attempt to explain and live his relationship with God. So if it's a best self theology, my question is, then what programs or processes do you have in place to make that person a best self?
Right.
Other than that, it goes back to individualism.
Exactly.
Because it is the group, it is the fellowship that helps people to get better.
That's right.
And when I saw that, then I say, well, then what do they call themselves now? Best selfers? That could be anybody calling themselves best selfers.
Right.
Black Christian nationalism is a theology. And in place of Black Christian nationalism were the processes to help us.
That's right.
So the theology that is now, obviously, some people have bought into it, not everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And some people question it, which they should.
Yeah.
Which they should question it. And
Sure.
me, I don't know if they call themselves Black Christian nationalists.
I don't think they do. And I'm not even sure if they did, if that would be the correct thing. So why do you think all of those changes occurred? Why do you think that happened to the church? Property sold, theology changed or eliminated. People like you, people who have been committed to the church for years and years and years, excommunicated, expelled, or whatever. Why do you think all that stuff happened?
I think the logical answer from anyone on the outside looking in and knowing these bits of details, they would say there was some power struggle there.
Yeah.
There's a quest for power.
Yeah.
And in the quest for power, other people don't really matter. Their contributions don't matter anymore.
Yep.
Slandering someone's name in the bulletin, there was no connection that Monifa is connected to her children. She's connected to her grandchildren. She's connected to people she knows in Houston at the university, teachers.
Right. That's right.
She's connected to people who she's had in her groups for years, and children who are now adults.
She's connected to every person who's come through this thing in 30 years. Every last one of them. Yeah.
So still the question for a lot of us is why?
Right.
And then I hear some people say, well, we didn't have any money. And then I want to say, crap. Why didn't you ask?
Right.
Where's the money being invested?
That's right.
If institutions are being sold, then why isn't Shrine 1 renovated?
Right.
Why does the Cultural Center in Atlanta have a leak? Why is the training center next to Shrine 10, that building, in disarray? You have, to me, anyone logically thinking would ask those questions.
That's right.
So you have these institutions that were our homes. Some of our children, that's all the home they had.
Right.
For a lot of us, it was our home for 30, 35 years. So tearing down a residence hall or selling it, you're actually selling a place where we had children, where we raised children.
Right.
But not only that, you're selling the spaces where we could have a nursery, where we could have an total house, where we can have a communal dining room, meditation centers, where we can have spiritual practices. Not only are you tearing down, taking away places for those rituals, you're also taking away responsibilities that people had. So if you don't have any institutions, how many Maccabees do you need? What are they protecting now?
Right.
The Culture Center in Detroit is not open. Culture Center in Houston is more so
Saturdays primarily.
What is it?
Saturdays primarily.
The purpose, the name was Cultural Center and Bookstore. Was at the Cultural Center where you could learn about African culture.
That's right.
Where you can buy African artifacts, where you can pick up African books written by African Americans.
That's right.
Where you can buy jewelry. It was where you can invite artists and poets. This is where I met Nikki Giovanni and these type of people at the Culture Center.
That's right.
So if it's not a cultural center, then that purpose is taken away.
Right.
Has been taken away. Not that it cannot be reestablished, but at this point, the purpose for having it, to me, has really been forgotten. So what I'm saying is that with the sale of institutions, people's lives were changed dramatically.
Right.
And some, I would say, would need therapy.
Right.
Because it was such a drastic move. Not only that, but those who joined with me in those years, who dedicated their life, sacrifice, time, skills.
Mm-hmm.
What do we show our children?
Right. Right. Yeah.
What do I have to show them for those 30 some years?
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lot of us ask ourselves.
Right. Right. And logically, I don't know how you could not.
And that's why some people are frustrated.
Sure.
As real as it is, people have to trust their leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that all leadership is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Jaramogi Baby Ochman was not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even, try to brag that he was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But he did. And we all know that from his mind, his soul, his being, that he was committed to building a Black nation and for helping people to do it also.
Right.
We knew that.
Right.
We knew that. And that trust is critical
Mm-hmm.
for any movement.
Yeah. And if there is no trust on that level, then the movement it's not gonna move very far. Because if you don't have the right leadership, it's just not going to work. I know from my own personal efforts and from the efforts of other people who have a lot more skill and expertise than I have, that people tried. If money was an issue, people tried. People with a lot of expertise to bring solutions to Jaramogi. And I've had conversations with these people, and none of their solutions were accepted, obviously. So, which would lead one to think, was it really about the church not having money? Because the church had and maybe even still has relationships with people who are in the business world, people who are in the finance world, people who are in the sales world, people who could have helped if it was an issue about the church not having money.
Exactly.
Which doesn't seem just, it defies logic. That doesn't make much sense.
I agree.
So this next question, I don't know. I'm going to ask because it's on my heart, but if you don't want to answer, I won't get mad at you. When you think about, I was going to say evil. I won't say evil. I'll say non-righteous behavior. Could you categorize how you were treated, how people who were part of the Holy Order of the Essenes were treated? Can you characterize the way things were sold and what all of that stuff that happened after Jaramogi passed? Can you define that behavior as non-righteous? Or is there a better description? I had one, but it was quite Black.
I know. I would say non-righteous.
Yeah. And
I would say that there was individualistic motives.
Amen.
And with the leaders' individualistic motives, if anyone else in leadership had their own idea of where things should go, they got on the bandwagon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I am not so naive to know that there are still people in the church that I've known for 50 years
mm-hmm.
that are in support of the best self theology.
Yeah.
I know that. But there are other groups and other people,
mm-hmm.
Black Christian nationalists, who are not.
Yeah.
And who know that something went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And the sale of institutions. And then we told that we're not in the housing business. That was told like in orientations.
Yep.
We're no longer we haven't been in the Now I'm getting east side, right?
Yeah, I saw that.
We haven't been, we're not in the housing business. What are you talking about?
Right.
We bought the National Training Center, the first residence hall, a 7-story hotel.
Mm-hmm.
We bought it from reaching and pledging. We bought that.
That's right.
Your emoji baby said we need to learn how to live together.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we purchased that.
Right.
You're saying we're not in the housing business. We should be in the housing business.
Right.
I'm saying that people need housing.
That's right.
I'm saying that our people need housing. Maybe our children need housing.
Sure.
But it was like a slap in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not in the housing. What are you? Explain that.
Right.
So the residence halls were set up for training and for people to live.
Sure.
Because I remember situations where someone would come to Jermoji Baby Hodgman and say, look, I can't, this place, I don't have any rent. I don't have a job right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a member of the church and I don't have a place to stay. He said, you can stay at the residence hall.
Right.
You can stay at the residence hall. These are the things you have to do, but this is where you can stay, you and your child.
Yeah.
He walked me one day after dinner in the chapel, the twin chapels over there on 5500. And he and I were walking between 54 and 5500 on the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
5400 Martin Luther King, 5500 Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
And walking with the Maccabee, and he stopped and he said, Monifa, this would be the best place for single mothers. And I said, that's true, Jermoji, because they would have the nursery and total house. They would have child care.
That's right, daycare, yeah. Dining hall,
all of that.
Yes, ma'am.
So he didn't see that in the same context as those are saying we're not in the housing business.
Right.
We still have a lot of young single Black mothers who need places to stay.
Mm-hmm. So
that was stated. We're not in the housing business. We don't have any money. Oh, shut up.
and no, it's okay. It's okay. You from Detroit. I get it. I'm married to somebody from Detroit. She scares the hell out of me. Let me stop. If institutions are the basis of power, which is all throughout BC in the book, and we have no institutions, then we don't have a power base. And if we don't have a power base, how can we liberate Black people? So, it's those simple things. When, I tell people, if you were in the shrine for a year, only a year, operating on any level, ATG, Southwest Congregation, BTG, whatever, in that 1 year, you would have more understanding of nation building than 99.9% of Black people because of how we lived our lives every single day. 1 year. For people who've been in the church for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 40, that what the church is now is not what Jermoji was trying to build, and it's obvious. So I don't know if, like you, I don't know what old school versus new school means. I don't know what it means to outgrow your membership. If, without a membership, you would have nothing. But if a person is thinking about the founder and what he was trying to do based on what's happening now, they're diametrically opposed. They're not the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's not the same thing at all.
Instead of having, the residence hall in Detroit, 700 Seward, the first one that we purchased.
Yes, ma'am.
Sold last year.
Yep.
Year before.
Yep. Year before last.
White owners purchased it.
Mm-hmm.
There are about 7 members of the Shrines of the Black Madonna that's still living in there.
Mm-hmm.
That the white owners have upgraded apartments, so forth and so on.
Yeah.
Jermoji Baby said that we will always have 700 Seward.
Yeah.
He knew white folks were going to try to come back in there, but he said we will always have it.
Sure.
Sold.
Yeah. That sounds like colonization. So, that's what it sounds like. And I can imagine what it feels like for a person who was a member of the shrine when the shrine got it, or for an extended period of time, and you got white neighbors. I mean, I can imagine what that feels like. And it can be a good feeling, because it's just, some things just aren't right. you know?
Yeah. See, that was a residence hall also, residence hall and training center.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
there you held meetings and we were running the office and security was there. It was our community.
Yeah.
And
The whole idea, Cardinal, of having a young person who wants to live a revolutionary life, the whole idea of not bringing them into an institution by which they wouldn't have to worry about bills, don't have to worry about rent or eating or protection, don't have to worry about getting caught up in the white man's matrix, because you created something for them to focus on being a Black Christian nationalist. Who does that?
That was ingenious.
That was ingenious. And not only was it ingenious, Cardinal, but it's still necessary.
It really is. It's still necessary. And so to live debt-free, 30 years, but to be in a place where you know you're going to eat, yes, where you have housing,
where you know you're going to eat, where you know your kids are safe, where you know you have housing.
And you know that the Maccabees is going to check on your door at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's right.
Wait, and they'll come and get you. My car, a nation car breaks down. Who's going to show up? The Maccabee.
That's right.
If I have problems outside, my sister was in a precarious situation where someone's trying to break in her house in Detroit. Who did I call? The Maccabees.
That's right.
It was a whole way of living. It was revolutionary. It was transforming.
Right.
Debt-free, hunger-free, no crime, at least no violence.
That's right.
That was the nation.
Yeah.
And that was the idea that Jaramogi Baby Ajman had in mind. And to do that, to let us see that we can do these things, we can purchase these institutions. Now he's in the background working, right? Because I know nothing about purchasing a hotel.
Sure.
But he knew people.
Right.
And he knew people who could tell him what properties were available in Detroit.
Yep.
And the same thing in Houston. I remember walking with him and Justin Robinson, who was the council person at the time and a real estate agent.
That's right.
And we're walking down, we're walking or driving, but Justin Robinson is pointing out properties that Jaramogi Baby that the shrine can buy. And those were those meditation centers, those houses.
Yes, ma'am.
And have we gotten the culture center? I'm not sure if we got the culture center at that time, but all I'm saying is that what he did was ingenious.
Right.
And his mind and heart, again, and soul was to build a nation. And oftentimes he would say, it is more than just a notion.
Right, right.
Because Jaramogi, when I joined, Jaramogi was already 60 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to tell people when I used to go out doing COR in Houston, I used to tell people that the shrines of the Black Madonna is the closest thing to heaven that Black people will ever see. Because just the fact that you can live in a predominantly Black space and be safe, that's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
You can feed Black people. You can house Black people. There's no violence. Your child is safe. Your child learns how to read, write, potty train, meditate from Black people. That is a big deal.
Yes.
Generational leadership. That is a big deal. Security. That's a big deal. I tell people that I saw HPD on the Shrine Church's property one time in 20 years. That's because we invited them because some people we took in after Katrina, we had to kick them out. Just nigga stuff. Can you imagine a Black community that doesn't need the city's police department? I mean, that's a big deal. So when you think about all of that, which is one of the reasons why you're making the decision to write the books so important, because like I said yesterday, last night, it pains me to see MLK and not see Jaramogi, see Malcolm X, not see Cardinal Luke, Cardinal Sondai, because we had leadership that was just as dynamic, but who knows that? It's like your professor told you, no one knows who the shrine is or what the shrine was. So we have to come back. We have to come back and have conversations about each book in more detail, because what I am doing, you've written about, and people need to know. We need to hire you, which is one of my goals. We need to hire you to consult us on how to bring the books back to life. Why? Because we're not free yet. And the books are relevant. They're blueprints.
And you know what? I would love to do that.
You ain't got no choice.
I talked to God, I talked to the energy field. I talked to the ancestors.
Yes, ma'am.
Jeramoji Baby Ajamin to Cardinal Nandi to Cardinal Olu.
Yep.
And I said, what would make my life really satisfying right now is if I can be engaged in conversation and teaching of Black Christian nationalism. That would allow me to live how many more days I have on earth in complete joy and satisfaction. When I wrote Genesis 2, the first one, the feeling was, as I said before, we don't have anything published.
Right.
That was the feeling. I was pushed to do that by the Spirit with them Total House. Who knows about what we've done?
That's right.
I'm going to write about it. And then with Memoir of a Black Christian Nationalist, I've had other members to write reviews. I've had them to send me emails, and they said they cried through a lot of it.
Yeah.
And they also showed it to their family and friends to let them know this is what my life was like.
This was real. These Black people were real. Yeah. And Cardinal, the inauguration event I told you about that we're having in October, where I've asked you to speak and do a workshop on some things. What we are going to do after that event, moving forward, is about getting you and people like you who've been involved in revolutionary struggle, programmatic revolutionary struggle, ensuring that what's in your head, what's in your heart, the pain, the work, the understanding, we Black people can't afford to have you go to your physical grave with that knowledge. We got to get it out, and we got to give it to the next generation with your guidance and your leadership and your consultation, so that we can continue moving this thing forward. Because Jeramogi didn't do all this stuff for us to stop because somebody did some crap that didn't make any sense, that we still can't figure out. And that's wrong, but we still got a nation to build. And if we have nation builders, i.e. yourself and other people, who are willing to show us how to build a nation, then it's on us. Those of us who are still young enough to do whatever, we got to take that from you and we got to build. So I am telling you, Cardinal, everything that I've done since the first conversation I had with you, however long ago it was, about doing what I'm doing now, everything I do for a reason. Because I believe that this is what Jeramogi would want us to do. So what you've been praying about, we are going to do that because we have to. The books were written. Now we got to put the books into action so people can see, oh, this is what it looks like. And since we've done it, it makes it a little easier because we're not guessing.
That's right.
Because we've already done it. All right, next question. Sorry,
You were preaching. You were preaching to Monty. Oh no, I was enthralled. I was finished.
I'm running from that. I'm like Jonah. I'm running from that. All right. So the title of the podcast is How to Build a Black Nation with Power. Building a Black nation with power, as you already know from your experience, is not always easy. There's conflict, there's confusion, there's anger, there's argument. I've heard more than once that Jeramogi used to get you guys to drink wine or whatever, because when you're drunk or inebriated, the walls come down. You can be a little. I know that. What?
Somebody said that? Somebody actually said that?
More than once. so my thing is that if the group is saying it, it's probably true. So, how do we? This is the question. How do we ensure, or how do we, as best we can, ensure that what you went through, what other people who were committed to the church, to the liberation struggle, to the movement, what they went through, people who have given their lives, because I am saying to people, Cardinal, I'm saying we got to build a nation for Black people, because Black people aren't safe, we have no power, blah, blah, blah. So I need you, Black person, to be committed on some level to helping me build this nation. I'm saying that to Black people every day, from all over the world, actually every day. So I know what I got to do, but I also know, because I know you, that human beings will F some stuff up, right? Negotiation still permeates, obviously. So how do we build a Black nation with power and ensure that your experience never becomes someone else's experience ever, ever, ever again?
Are you saying my experience about not being in the shrine?
About how you would treat it? Yes, ma'am.
You're definitely going to have some process, some group process, Tamani.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Black Gold Nation, I know it addresses spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
That spirituality is definitely going to have to be defined.
Yep.
And for people to have a common language and a common knowledge about spirituality.
Okay.
Because people have different concepts of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that has to be, that to me, that has to be defined. That this commitment is a movement of energy, of divine power. And that is, to me, I think the best conceptualization of spirituality. In terms of knowing and feeling the energy and the power of God within you and within a group can be a strong foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to veer off just a minute and come back to answer your question.
Okay.
With the devotionals, there's a part that says, we have failed to fulfill our covenant relationship with God. Right. We are sinners. Mm-hmm. That step was so profound because it helped me to be aware that I do not want to block the power of God.
Okay.
So if I'm alienating anyone by thought or deed, I ask for forgiveness. And I am now aware that what I say and what I do, how is that affecting another person? Mm-hmm. So I say that to say this, that type of common knowledge of spirituality, acceptance of what it is, that's important. I would also think that most people in Black Gold Nation believe in a God. Yes, ma'am. That God needs to be defined. Right. As cosmic energy and creative intelligence, and that we as a people have a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. As a people. Individually, that's taught in churches all over the world, your individual salvation, mm-hmm. But somehow it's going to have to be expanded to not only my individual salvation, but our salvation and survival. Right. Ours. Right. So in terms of moving forth, as I mentioned to you on the email, when I listened to K-Fing, mm-hmm. I said, it's amazing how we share the same vocabulary and language. That's right. But that was intentional, mm-hmm. because Jaramogi Baby Ajamin laid out the documents, simply stated, and we read those and studied those. Yep. So the Black Gold Nation, I know, have documents too. Sure. There has to be some requirement. Mm-hmm. Not just these are our documents, but there has to be, and maybe you're doing this, orientations to mm-hmm. keep educating people in terms of that common knowledge and common vocabulary. Right, right. There's another statement, I think I mentioned to you before, we are Black, we are oppressed, we seek to end our oppression. Yes, ma'am. It has to be under that umbrella. Right. And there has to be some program mm-hmm. in place to make these things happen. Right. To help change the minds of Black people and at the same time to help build. And I believe that it can be done. Mm-hmm. K-Fing mentioned that missionary outreach was for an era, mm-hmm. which we reached for 20, 25 years, however long we did yep. that. Yes, ma'am. Then today, without having missionary outreach, then where do we get our funding from? Mm-hmm. Get it from people. Sure. Yeah. Marcus Garvey, he asks people to send in $1 a week. Mm-hmm. But it has to be something, again, to money that's visible for people. Right. If we're going, so, I'm just trying to put all these ingredients into the vegetable soup. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to ask people to do something, and which Jaramogi Baby Ajamin knew, mm-hmm. they're gonna have to see the fruits of their labor. Sure. Not 20 years from now, but right now. Mm-hmm. So what are we doing? The goal is to set up a nursery. Okay, this is the goal. We set up a nursery, got a nursery place. This is the goal. We've done it. and we're going to maintain it.
Right.
If you need a meditation center, can people give to create a meditation center? This is our meditation center. We purchased it. And then again, protocols in place to make sure that that property is taken care of. So there are ways to do it, but it requires to me thinking about how to do it and then asking for guidance from those who've gone on before. So some people may say, well, that, you know, that sounds spooky to ask for guidance from people who have gone on before, but it's really not. Because it's really not spooky, because we carry the teachings and the knowledge, we carry it through space and time. Do you understand a bit what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
See, here I am sitting here as Monifa, but raised as Shelley with my mother and father.
Right.
Almost everything that I do today is going to be reflection on what Ruth and Rufus Miller did in terms of how to clean a house, how to iron clothes, how to even cornrow, how to keep a neat house, how to drive a car. Those things travel through space and time with a person. With Jeremiah Baby Ajman, his teachings, they're still a part of my energy field. They're still a part of my belief system.
Right.
And so we can meditate and sit quietly and ask for an answer. And that answer is there. It will come. That's what I also mean by spirituality. In our quiet spaces, if we ask the question, there's going to be an answer. And it may come from someone who you don't ever know, but the answer is coming. So that's why Jesus, the Black Messiah, said, ask and it shall be given. That is a spiritual teaching.
Okay.
It is a spiritual teaching. Ask, because you are sending that out into the vast energy field where thoughts and experiences already are out there on the energy level. Knock and the door shall be open. You have to do something. Knock. What's the question? What is it that you need? Knock and the doors will be open. Answers will come to us through different people, through your organization, through others. The answers will come if we are open to it.
Right.
I see grand possibilities if we can influence enough people. A lot of a certain percentage of Black people have become wealthy.
Sure.
How come many of the wealthy basketball players and football players, they give to charities? Sometimes they build their own, but they give to other charities. Why not give to Black Gold Nation? They need to know what they're giving to, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm also saying that we have doctors, lawyers, nurses, professors, even a Black president at one time, a Black vice president. Black people have all they need.
Yeah. Everything we need, we already
have everything we need. And the only reason we got this far is because of those who struggled before us. I would have never been able to get into a university if it wasn't for affirmative action and the civil rights movement. They had to open the doors for Black youth.
That's right.
I never would be in this position if my mother and father had not migrated, the last Black migration from the South to the North.
Sure.
We have to keep all of that in perspective. But to me, I'm always hopeful because there are answers. There are other connections that can be made. Not specifically missionary outreach in this era. Could come back though.
Sure.
But I would never say never. Right. But there are many things that we could do to continue the revolutionary struggle.
Okay. Do you think if the group process, based on your understanding of the group process, do you think if the group process was properly used, the church would be in the position that it's in now?
That if the group process was properly used?
Yes, ma'am.
Would the church be in a position that is in now?
Yeah. I'm saying if the group process is properly used, would the church be in the position and or condition that is in now?
So I would have to say that the group process was properly used. Periodically, sometimes sporadically, the group process was used.
Was it used for individualistic motives though?
I would say during my tenure and journey, I didn't feel it was used for individualistic motives.
Okay, no. I'm talking about from the time that Jomo Bebe passed to the time you were expelled. During that window, that period, whatever we want to call that time. I'm saying, do you believe that if the group process was properly used, do you think that period of activity, whatever we call it, would have happened if the group process was properly used?
If the group process was properly used, no, we wouldn't be in the state where we are now.
Right.
But the group process being properly used depends on leadership too.
Amen.
Okay.
That's all I'm trying to get to.
Okay. It depends on the top leader.
Right.
It depends on group leaders. It depends on administrators, that they are all walking the same path.
Right.
And whatever happened, I would question whether to what degree did they understand Black Christian nationalism?
Yeah, that's a heavy question, given the number of years that people were in the church. That's a heavy question, because you would think if they're on the Assembly of Cardinals level, what's that, 15, 20 years average? Surely they must have known what BCN was at that point.
You know, the year that we all, that many cardinals got ordained, I remember going up to Jermoji Bebe's apartment, and Cardinal Lou was laying on the floor. He always liked to lay on the floor on the red carpet. And I went up there and he said, Monifa, I think we were having some leadership conclave or something. No, whatever, a conclave. And he said, Monifa, you're going to be ordained a cardinal in the ceremonies tomorrow.
Okay. So
I'm sitting next to, I got my times mixed up, but I'm sitting next to Cardinal Nandi, and we see all these people are being called up to be a cardinal. So I must have been a cardinal before then. So all these people are being going to the pulpit to be a cardinal. And she looks at me and says, why is he ordaining so many people to be a cardinal? I'm thinking that the church had expanded to 3 regions, and the Cardinal of Assemblies really was supposed to be the governing body for each of those regions.
Right.
Cardinal is not an isolated title. It's that you belong to a group of cardinals who are responsible for that region. And then you belong to the College of Cardinals. Those are all cardinals from all 3 regions. That's how he was trying to set up his leadership. But obviously, to become a cardinal, maybe we all need to be vetted more. Yeah, maybe we all need to be vetted more in order to acquire that position. So I would have to interlock the group process, the failure of the group process after his death, and leadership as the reason why the church has lost all of its institutions. And even though it's trying to be played off now, oh, you know, we didn't have the money, we didn't have enough people doing this. I said, when people found out that the residence hall 5400 was about to be sold, some young people came forth and said, what can we do to save it?
That's right.
At the BCN National Training Center in Detroit, it was the same thing. Because we've always stepped forth to save it, always stepped forth to save our institutions. But it was not in the plan to save our institutions. That was not the plan.
Amen. Okay, so as you already know, because we've talked about it, there's a lot of sadness, frustration, anger, disappointment, pain out there, including you and I, per everything that's happened. So what should we do, those of us who have that pain, anger, disappointment, frustration? What should we do to try and get people back on the path, if it's even possible? What should we be doing to try and get people back on the path of nation building, given the fact that they have a lot of stuff that they're still dealing with?
Well, first we have to realize that these people actually nation built.
Mhm.
And they nation built with trust, loyalty, and a belief that we are doing and we will continue to do these things to liberate Black people. We have to look at their lives because they did it.
Yep.
Then we have to look at that with the demise of these institutions, it's like the whole world crashed. So I even had someone to email me and say, I've been crying every single day because of what's happened. Someone who read my book told another friend who told me that as he read the book, and this was a former Maccabee, he told her he cried through the whole book. She asked him why, and he said, because Monifa thanked everybody. And then a major who purchased my book, and he told me that he read it very carefully, but he didn't want to leave his comments on Facebook. He wrote me a 4-page essay.
Okay.
Saying that this was the life that he lived. And he said, you may not remember, Monifa, but we were in a group leaders devotional meeting, and you looked over at me and saw that something was wrong. And so you came over and asked me what was wrong. He said at that point, he broke down and cried because he had left his father in Philadelphia and in a nursing home. And he said, I've done that, but I feel real bad. I feel real bad about that. He said, remember you told me to go talk with Jeramogi. And he said, the group helped me out that night. And he said, you told me that I would help you, that I would help him. He said he did go talk with Jeramogi, and he was so surprised that Jeramogi held him up in such a high honor, esteemed. Jeramogi told him, go back and take care of your father. And that's how he got back to Philadelphia. He was part of the Philadelphia cadre.
Yeah, I can guess what you're talking about, because his name starts with a K, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, brother.
He is awesome.
Yeah, matter of fact, he's after Fundi Karima, he's up next.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh, no doubt.
Okay. So but don't tell him I told you. But he
won't
hears
tell
this
him.
anyway.
Oh, he will watch.
But it was such an enduring story.
Yeah.
So other people have read it and become emotionally touched by it because this was their life. So what I'm saying is that we've gone through emotional trauma.
Right.
Some, even though I was able to take care of myself, there were some people who weren't.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. And they're still struggling. It's obvious.
It should never happen.
Yep.
They should have been given pension for the rest of their lives. Jeramogi, or baby Ajuman, lived with us. That's the mark of a leader. He didn't have to. He did it. We moved into the National Training Center. He moved in too.
Right.
We didn't own cars. He didn't own one either.
Right.
That's a leader.
No doubt.
Dedicated. So you're asking, look, I've talked so much, I forgot the question. You asked me.
How do we get people who are going through a lot of stuff? How do we get them back on the path of liberation, salvation, nation building?
There's going to, to me, we are going to have some kind of meeting to talk.
Yeah, come to Jesus meeting, huh?
Do I want to call it come to Jesus?
An open, honest discussion about what the hell.
They have to say it. They have to say how it hurt them. My catharsis was writing the letters.
Right.
When this particular person said, this is the way I'm feeling, we don't have anything left. This person joined when she was about 17 years old. So I said, what helped me was writing these letters. So maybe that will help you too.
Yeah.
There has to be some kind of virtual where we can talk and get it out, up and out, and decide what we're going to do with our feelings now, because many don't trust.
Yeah.
Why am I going to put my life? Why am I going to put my life in the hands of somebody else?
Yeah.
And I was that, which brought to a thought. The other thing that moved me to move out is because I said, I don't trust them with my life.
That's right.
That was the other thing. I was very aware of that. I don't trust them with my life or making decisions about me. So it's time for me to go.
Right.
I trusted Jermoji Bebe Ajme. I trusted him and believed in him.
Yeah. And if there's no trust, you can't build anything.
No, you can't.
You cannot.
So what you see happening, it just doesn't feel good to any of us.
Yeah.
Shrine 1 is standing on the corner of Linwood and Hogarth in a blighted neighborhood. It has no power to change. That's not the power of a church. You don't have the power to change the neighborhood around you. Then if the condemnation is people are not giving or people are not coming, you have to figure out why people are not coming.
Yeah, aren't coming and not giving to what or for what?
That is the question.
Yeah.
Why would I look at this?
And if you are a church that is in a Black space and you're not affecting the space around you, then aren't you like every other Black church, or the majority of every other Black church?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did some research a few years ago, Cardinal. 2 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, right around the time I wrote my book, there were over 85,000 Black churches in the country, 85,000. And the community around most of those churches are like third world countries. And it seems like we're right there with them. And it's sad given who and what we are, or who and what we were, I should say. Yeah.
And I agree with you, because in Jeramoji's poem, Eulogy of the Black Church, he says, with its steeple pointed crazily towards the sky. Shrine 1 has a steeple. And all around it is a blighted neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that.
No,
so
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said this to say this, if there's going, like, your question was people moving past that? People.
No, not moving past it. Because you can't move past trauma and pain. You got to still deal with everything you say describe. We still got to deal with the trauma and the pain because it's there.
Yes.
However, we're still not free.
Yeah.
So I understand that. Like Harriet Tubman, I understand that, you got a life of a slave and you being treated like a slave because this person, your slave owner, so to speak, but we got to be free. So we got to keep moving. We don't have the luxury of, and I don't want to use this word, but I can think of a better one. We don't have the luxury of wallowing in our pain. We got to keep moving because the enemy don't stop because you in pain.
Yeah, but you got to recognize both.
Amen.
Okay, the wallowing in pain, most people have, a lot have still continued on in their lives, right? Yeah. As nurses, or the things that I do, or some people have gone back to working and they have homes and apartments and things like that.
Yeah.
The thing is to be able to recognize and talk about the pain.
Sure.
And move forward.
Right.
It is a process to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
So Jeramoji, when the singer first started, he had us say affirmations. I let go of fear, I let go of anger, I let go of worry, I let go of self. I'm thankful. I'm a hard worker. And it was the 7th one, I can't even remember now. But that type of process helps. I would think that those who are disgruntled, and many are, that if there was a platform where we could just talk about it, that would be a step. If this is the audience that you want.
Well, it's the audience I want to include because it's my revolutionary family.
Okay.
Like, how do you not include your family? And then I'll bring my 4 brothers. All right. So next question. So in this question, this might be a harder one. So if you said, I don't want to answer that one, it's okay. This is another touchy one. You ready?
Mhm.
Okay, so everything in the church revolved around the group. Salvation is a group experience. That's what we were taught. If the purpose of the group is to check the individual's niggerized behavior, we have to fault Jeramogi Kimati's group for what happened or didn't happen, right? That's the question. If the group is there to check the individual's niggerized behavior, and an individual is doing things that's disrupting the lives of a bunch of people that's anti what the founder was doing, if people are going to fault Jeramogi Kimati for whatever, then should they not also fault his group for allowing it?
I guess the question would be, who is this group?
That would be a good one.
Right, who is this group? Because that question is so heavy.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so leadership is everything, as I said before. So whatever has happened to the church between 2000 and 2020, leadership needs to take responsibility for that.
Yeah.
And you included the group process. See, niggerization can be on an unconscious level.
Okay, that's fair.
It can be on an unconscious level. And that's why it was so important to have core, because it would bring this up. The example I wanted to use, and I get back to that, is as a group leader, I evolved and grew because of the group process and because of Jeramogi Imarogbe.
Okay.
So one of my group members came to me and said, another group member is lying on her, just lied on her. And she can't understand why she's just lying and barking on her. And so I knew that as a group leader, I could not side with that group member right then.
Yeah.
In order to maintain trust as a leader. So I told her, bring it up in the meeting and we would discuss it there.
Okay.
But as I reflected before going to the meeting, I said, how am I going to go in this meeting and tell another group member out of a self-righteous stance that you're a liar? And I asked myself, have I lied before? And my answer was, yes, I've lied before. So that's not the way I'm going to go in with a self-righteous stance.
Okay.
I'm going to go in and ask this person to say what it was and how it felt, and the other person to say what it was and how it felt. And now is their ground to resolve and restore this relationship. I'm saying that leadership has to reflect on their own niggerized behaviors.
That's right.
And I believe with this last BCM message and mission that's in the book, that Jeramogi realized that we were and have done some great things, but there was still something that had to be transformed with us. So I'm saying this, that's whatever happened in these 20 years, it would be critical and very important for that leadership to reflect on what they have done, how they have held other people accountable, and what they have done to their people.
Right.
Jeramogi Imarogbe, we were his people. We were his people, his top leadership, we were his disciples, even though he never used the word disciples, but we were.
Right.
And then as group leaders, we made other disciples. That's the way it was.
That's right.
We were loyal to him, and then we had groups who were loyal to us and Jeramogi.
Right.
So yes, they need to look at that.
Yeah.
Look at the state of the institutions we have now. Why is the main culture center not open? Why is Shrine One sitting on the corner by itself? Why don't we have any residence halls? Where are our nurseries?
Yep.
Where are our total houses? They need to ask that question. Right. And if they can't ask that question and look at themselves, then unapologetically, I would say they're not leadership.
Right.
A leader has to do that.
And a leader has to be brave enough to do that.
Yes.
And honest enough with his or her actions and decisions, because it's not easy saying that I was wrong, or that I lied, or that I was individualistic. That's not easy. But if you are trying to be a leader, then of course you do that. But that's part 3. All right, next question.
No.
Sorry. Go ahead.
If you're trying to be a leader, if you really want to be a leader, you are held to a higher level of accountability.
That's right.
So Jeremiah, you wrote that in the BCN code, that leadership is held to a higher level of accountability because the survival of the church depends on this leadership.
That's right.
So I think the point I was trying to make, when we opened the Caramel House in Houston, Texas, and everybody who goes into the Caramel House have to take their shoes off. Okay, Cardinal 90 and I were the ones who decorated the entire house and set up those devotional rooms.
Yes, ma'am.
So this was again a conclave. It was a tribute to Jeremiah Baby Ajman. And so as he was coming into the Caramel House, I said, Jeremiah, you don't have to take your shoes off. He said, I'm taking them off because I'm not above the law.
There you go.
That's a leader.
That says it all. That says it all. Yeah.
So I'm saying that in these 20 years, leaders have to have that same type of reflection and have to ask themselves their own question. I evolved, not that I'm perfect, but I evolved. And I know that people on my team, child focused team, or even when I was a principal and someone didn't quite understand what I was saying, I asked myself, how can I make it clear?
Right.
Because I have to paint a picture that's on my mind and put it on theirs. So let me find where the miscommunication is, or what part do I have to play in this? What part am I responsible for this? I think that every revolutionary and every leader always have to be self-reflective and be honest with yourself, because Tamani, in our reality, we can lie to ourselves.
Sure. That's
a whole lot of power. I'm lying to me. I'm lying to me? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And it would be one thing if in these 20 years, everything that Jeremiah accomplished, it would be one thing if we doubled it, or even if we were keeping pace. That would be one thing, because then people could say, this was why we did what we did. However, when you don't see us keeping pace, or like you said in a thread that I can't remember, I think Italo asked the question, and Jawanza was giving his position, and you gave a list of all the institutions that we had and how we don't have them anymore, how we grew and how we haven't grown. I mean, that kind of truth, it is what it is. So it's one thing to say, people could have a position to stand on if we were keeping pace or doubling what was done prior to.
That's right.
But when you look at what's there from the time the founder passed to what we have now, you have to say, like you just said, leadership has to ask itself honestly, what have we done or what are we doing?
And that's true. And I agree with you. It has to be, like you said, what it is.
Yeah.
And these 20 years, anyone has been in the shrine and looking at what happened, they know there's been no growth. There's been a demise in our institutions. And if the leadership says, well, we're not in the housing, we don't have any money, this and that, people see through that.
Yeah. Like you said, people aren't stupid.
No, they're not stupid. Okay, but yes, I agree with you.
So did the Assembly of Cardinals go through cool and devotionals the way membership did?
Obviously, not many did.
Yeah. And I would say that was probably a mistake. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Yeah. Amen. Next question. This is an easy one. So for people who don't, and we only have like 5 questions left, so we're doing good, almost at the 2-hour mark.
Oh, we are 2. The people actually
on you.
Come on. At 2 hours on a Zoom, I'm through. I'm like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I cannot stay on a Zoom for 2 hours. Have we been talking for 2 hours?
Not yet. It'll be 2 hours and 22 minutes.
We'll be
You know what's funny, Cardinal, is that I agree with you. However, it doesn't feel like it, does it?
No, it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah. So we're
But
gonna.
people who may view this, I'm not listening to them for 2
I'm about
hours.
to say, girl, it's a recording, Cardinal. They can pause it. Whatever. We're gonna do what we gotta do. We're doing this for a
Oh, that's
reason.
true. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
they
true.
can pause it. They'll be all right. Trust me, they'll get through it. Go eat a
I forgot
sandwich and
about
come
that.
back.
Yeah. It is a recording.
It is a recording, whatever. We live, you not live. You be quiet. All right, so
Just a few
someone
seconds. Just a few seconds. Let me put in my other cord because
oh yeah.
my battery on my computer is running just a little low. That's
I
because of
understand.
you. I'll be right back.
Okay. I forgot I could pause it. Okay, all right. So the next few questions are relatively easy. So
Okay.
we want to zoom through it. It's not gonna be 2 hours. All right. So to someone who doesn't know, who was Reverend Albert B. Clegg, African title and name, Jeramogi Baby Ajiman? Who was that brother?
So I want to answer that with a story at first.
Okay.
We were having a preacher's meeting. And so you had about 8 or 9 people up there, Olu, Kamathi, Lutalo, Abi, I think in Bayou, Colonel Chewy. And for each one of those discussions, I always bought a stack of books.
Okay.
Commentaries, illustrators, Bibles, and the whole thing.
Mhm.
So we're discussing what the next sermon should be, which will also be the Black theology lesson, which will also be the theology lesson for children, so that it could be a common thread in our information and interpretation of the Bible. So I'm looking through the scriptures and I stop, look at Jeramogi, and I say, "You're a prophet." He stopped, Kamathi stopped. They both looked at me. Jeramogi said, "What did you say?" I said, "You're a prophet." I went on reading.
No biggie.
He seemed a little surprised. So why would I say he was surprised? Jeramogi Baby Ajman never called himself a prophet. But like Jesus, he did want to know what we thought of him.
Okay.
I thought of him as a prophet.
Okay.
And the reason why is because he had studied so much, even areas that I may not ever know of. He was trained by his mother and father in content that I may never know. He went to a divinity school. He got a degree from that. He went to numerous universities to speak to the youth. They were asking him to come, college students, asking about the relevancy of the Black church in the liberation struggle. He incorporated different theories and concepts. For instance, the control of a person's environment to change them. The environment you had to have some control of the person's environment to transform.
That's right. Counterculture.
And he had us to watch a Clockwork Orange, where a person's behavior was modified. This guy was using drugs, but they showed him videos and then they made him get sick. And after a while, he wouldn't use drugs anymore. He read those type of things that would psychologically transform the mind. And even books like Awareness, written by John somebody. I've almost used every awareness exercises in that book. That also is to bring to consciousness your motivations and your behavior. He studied those things. He studied yoga. Even though he didn't do yoga, he studied it. Implemented it in the Culture Center in 1971. He talked to different people because his statement was, Jesus knew he could not do this alone. Jaramogi Baby Ajman knew he couldn't do this alone.
That's right.
He was open to the knowledge, experience, and skills that people brought into the church, even the young people. So if we say what kind of person he was, when he set his mind on organizing young people to build a Black nation, he took on everything that came with that. And so his study of the Bible, discussing with other people, if the Culture Center is a culture center, then we're going to invite Sonia Sanchez, Ron Correga, John Henry Clark. Those people are coming to the Culture Center and to the shrine.
That's right.
If it's a culture center, this is our purpose. This is how you transform Black people. This is how you re-educate them. So here you have a man who has this strong foundation from his mother and father. He's come up during this whole civil rights movement and Black power movement. He studied Marcus Garvey and he knows where Marcus Garvey failed. And he told us where Jesus failed. And he began to conceptualize, how now can we not face this failure again? Christianity was his foundation. He was a Christian. They asked him, Elijah Muhammad asked him to become a Muslim. He said, no, I'm a Christian. And rediscovering the history and the real message of Jesus, Jaramogi embedded that and took that to heart. So his love for Jesus, the Black Messiah, there was a song that he really liked called Jesus, a gospel song. He was connected to that. He told me that he wanted a mural painted at Shrine 10 that showed Jesus on the cross being crucified and the Romans mocking and teasing him, a Black man on the cross. That was one mural that he wanted at Shrine 10. So you have this more than human who has incorporated these tenets, concepts into his life. And now he's faced with this magnanimous notion to build a nation. So if I describe him, I would say that his focus was exactly that, and everything that came with that, he organized it. Everything that came with changing people, he put those things in place.
Mhm.
Where he saw slave culture behaviors, he came up with a directive. Where he saw that there was discord, he came up with the BCN code. In terms of changing our minds about what we have been taught, he came up with BCN teachers. Those things we studied.
Mhm.
The cornerstone of BCN position is the redemption of Africa.
Right.
Nothing's more sacred than liberation of Black people. We have been brutalized or whatever by a white system that seeks our genocide.
Mhm.
All of that knowledge is what helped to transform us. I'll say he was bigger than life to me.
Would you say he was a genius?
Yes, he was a genius. Now you have different forms of geniuses, right?
Sure. However you
I
define
would
genius.
still say that he was a genius.
Okay.
And I would say that his evolvement as a leader was being in direct contact with his people.
Okay.
And being a fervent believer in Jesus and the early Christian church, the power of the disciples at Pentecost and how the power came to a group.
Okay.
We
Amen.
believe that.
Okay.
I would say also he worked day and night at times that we didn't know.
Mhm.
He had to be writing. Certain things he had Cardinal Luke, not in the 1975 booklet. He wrote all of that.
Yeah.
We had different little booklets to come out later. He would have Cardinal Luther write an article or write a sermon in there, have Kamathi write a sermon in these little booklets.
Mhm.
But he is the one that laid the foundation.
Do you have all of those? Do you have at least one copy of every publication that we ever put out by any chance?
Just about.
Yeah. We need to talk after this because I need to get some of that stuff.
Yeah, but guess what?
Yes, ma'am.
The University of Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
their library has a lot of his work.
Okay.
And so his daughter, Crystal, after Jaramogi's death, she donated all of that.
Okay.
So in writing my book, I have some original documents in there.
Okay.
And I preface it saying that I called the University of Michigan, which I did.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I want to use these documents. I already have souvenir booklets, but I want to use these documents in a book that I'm writing.
Mm-hmm.
He said, these are not copyrighted.
Oh.
You can use the way
Okay.
you want.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, in the book itself, you're going to find all the major
Awesome.
original documentations.
Okay, cool. Oh, that got to be a thick book. Okay, so, all right, next question. What would be your proudest moment as a member of the Shrines of the Black Madonna and why? And you cannot use the birth of your children or a marriage. Your proudest moment as a member of the church, and you cannot use the birth of your children or a marriage.
You know, I had a lot of proud moments. So it's
Yeah,
hard to pick
I'm
the
sure.
proudest one.
Okay, one of your proudest ones.
One of the proudest ones, and I think probably this one was bittersweet, but I still felt proud. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The first bishops that were ordained, Zizwe, Sundai, Masai, General Masai, and Amanifu,
Mm-hmm.
they were ordained in that first convention in Atlanta.
Okay.
That was 1975. And I was in, I must have been still in charge of the Total House. Something. I'm just trying to get my time straight.
Okay.
But nonetheless, when I found that they were being ordained,
Mm-hmm.
I did ask myself, well, I've done great work too. You know, how come I'm not being ordained? I said it to myself.
What the hell, Jaramogi?
I said it to myself.
The nerve of you.
So
that's funny. That's genuinely funny. All right, come on. We're gonna be back 2 hours.
And so, okay, and so a voice came to me and said, "Don't even worry about ordination. Do the best that you can do. And you're working with children now, just do the best you can do.
Right.
And don't let ordination be one of your goals." So it was never my goal after that.
Okay.
But when Jeramogi Baby asked me to go back to Houston,
Mhm.
and it was a very difficult decision
Mhm.
because my daughter didn't want to go back to Houston. She was 14.
Right.
Houston was not her place.
Mhm.
And she didn't want to go back. And I was torn with that. And that night I tossed and turned, trying to figure out what decision I was going to make. So I felt safe with her staying in Total House.
Mhm.
I felt safe with that.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I would not have done it.
Sure.
I would not have done that.
Yeah.
So when I went up and told him, because he asked me to go, he told me just think about it.
Mhm.
So when I went up the next night and I said, Jeramogi, I will go to Houston.
Mhm.
And he said, okay. And as I walked out, he said, I want you to look nice tomorrow because you're going to be ordained a bishop.
Mm.
And that was a shocking but proud moment for me.
Right.
So that Sunday that I was ordained a bishop, Amina Molokai was ordained a Fundi.
Okay.
And then another, I think, I forgot her name. She was ordained. It was 3 of us ordained that Sunday.
Okay.
So that was a proud moment.
Yeah. Proud, bittersweet.
Special moment.
Yeah.
Hmm?
I say proud, bittersweet.
Yes.
Okay. So from the time you joined to now, what do you think were or are some of the things we could have done better at as a national organization? Maybe 2 or 3 things you could think of that the Shrine could have done better at as a national organization.
As long as he could, Jeramogi tried to be everywhere because he knew that his presence made a difference.
Yes, ma'am.
I would think that in his latter days, that it would have been very beneficial for top leadership to sit down and talk about the direction of the church.
Right.
Especially with him getting in his 80s,
Mm-hmm.
that communication and intentional planning for the shrine should have taken place,
Mm-hmm.
where the leadership voice could be heard.
Okay.
With him. That could have been done better. He was only listening to, as he got older, 2 or 3 voices, and that wasn't enough.
Yep.
And in terms of doing things better, another thing, we as group leaders being placed over groups, Jeramogi would encounter us to help us to change.
Uh-huh.
And even though we had group meetings, leadership group meetings, group leaders meetings, where we discussed the goals and issues, I think having more of those where we also could voice our emotions, our feelings, along with our responsibility as being a group leader, I think that would have helped too. And one reason why I say that, when I hear the magnificent stories of Mutamaki, Bayou, and Kafine, I didn't know those things about them.
Right. Yeah.
Their time before they came into the church, and even their time in the church, I didn't know that Mutamaki spoke German.
Neither did I.
That or that in Bayou ran track. Those things, those stories help connect to people.
Sure.
More. And so that hearing each other's stories, where we're just not holding each other accountable at the time, but the intent is to hear each other's stories. I think that would have helped too.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. What were the top 3 things you think the Shrine excelled at that Black people could still benefit from today? The top 3 things. I know it's a lot, but the top 3 things, or maybe one of the top 3 things that you think the Shrine excelled at that Black people could still benefit from today.
The Shrine excelled in organization. Jeramogi Baby Ajamin said, we have to be organized. So the thing was organize or die. You have to organize from the top down. And that's what he attempted to do, was to have an organized movement.
That was Cardinal Bayou's number one answer too.
And then communalism,
Okay.
African communalism. But it was more than that. Communalism is the greatest and highest expression of God's love and nature. So the shrine was good at setting up a communal environment where we depended on each other. There was interdependency, where we took care of each other's children, where we cooked meals for others to eat, where we cleaned our institutions, helped each other to get from one place to the other.
Mhm.
The communalism was something that I thought, even though not perfect, but it did get us a long ways.
Okay.
So I said organization, communalism, and I would say the bonds that we share.
Okay.
I know some people refer to the children that came up through a Keebaland and Total House, and it is true that they have those bonds that'll never be broken.
That's right.
Even though they're in different cities. But we also have those bonds, their parents, because we were struggling for the same thing.
Sure.
We were having our babies at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a kinship bond as well.
Right.
And so that bonding is really the premise or the experience of what it feels like to be a nation.
Mm-hmm.
That bonding and love and kinship, those are paramount to even feeling what a nation is all about. So I felt the shrine excelled in those three areas.
Okay.
Organization, communalism, fellowship, and bonding.
Fellowship and bond. Let me do it in fellowship. I got the bond part. Okay. So my last question was one you answered yesterday, which was the foundation of the Black Gold Nation is the Shrines of the Black Madonna. To me, there's no other way that I can do this. As a matter of fact, if you were to read BCN and you replace Black Church with Conscious Community Center, everything's the same. And it's funny to me that the BCN BCN teaches, BCN position, any BCN word, BGN is there and the word is the same. So everything is the same. There's no need. And of course, I've updated it because we don't use 8-track tapes anymore. So Jeramogi refers to 8-track tapes and and media. So I've upgraded it to include podcasts.
Okay.
Things have changed. But everything's the same. There's no need to change it because we're still not free and that stuff still works. So in closing, my last question to you is there anything that you think Black people should know as it relates to the Shrines of the Black Madonna and or Jeramogi Baby Ajiman that we have not covered? Any closing comments or remarks about that brother in particular or the organization that he built before we close out?
Mm-hmm. Well, I've I have really skimmed the parameter, but to actually be in the life of what happened from day to day, that if I can provide just a quick example, as a house parent of a group of 9 boys, this was my last house. And I was with them until they were 18 years old. This is in Houston.
Yeah.
So my day, for those who would think what happens in a day of a revolutionary, I get up at 5, 6 a.m. in the morning and I wake up my group of boys. We have a special way to wake children up so that it would be gentle and loving. And the statement was, good morning, rise and shine. All house parents were taught the same thing.
Okay.
They then had to come to the altar and we had our meditation and our prayer and a Keebaland pledge to hold them together as a group.
Right.
They're still in their underwear. They go into their different assignments, cleaning the bathroom, the kitchen, making up their beds, vacuuming. They all have assignments to do. They put on their school uniforms. And then I walk with them into the chapel, one of the chapels, where a house parent has prepared breakfast for them.
That's right. Yep.
So our children go in there and eat breakfast.
Mhm.
Some of them we take to their bus stop, either in a car or a van, and
Mhm.
some we take straight to school.
Yeah.
So now all of our children are in school. And me as a house parent, now I'm back at residence hall.
Mhm.
I have a group. So we plan to go out community outreaching. We go out community outreaching, or I work on some kind of assignment for the youth. At 3 o'clock, when our children start coming back in, we go pick them up from these bus stops. And we bring them back, and at every total house, there are 2 house parents in
Mhm.
Houston.
Mhm.
Make sure that happened.
Mhm.
We're waiting for them to get out of school.
Yeah.
Snacks are already prepared for them. We ask them to talk about school, and then let's do your homework. They finish their homework 3 days out of the week. After they finish their homework, they go to the training center where they actually have an after-school program
Mhm.
where they have reading and they have science. I purchased algebra, geometry, CDs, so the children can learn that, physiology. We taught them reading so that all of our children were reading way above grade level.
That's right.
We're still there. This is the course of the day, right?
Mhm.
That's the revolutionary.
Yeah.
They finish that, they eat dinner. Again, a group in the church has prepared dinner
Mhm.
for them,
That's right.
for all of us.
Yeah.
And we go there and eat. Then we take the children back to our other property across the street, and they take their showers.
Mhm.
All the group leaders are there, children are taking their showers. We bring them back to their own total houses, and we have a 3-hour devotional 3 days a week.
Yeah.
That was in the summer, 3 days a week. Devotionals are over with at 9. 9 o'clock, I'm going to another meeting.
Mhm.
And I'm in that meeting to 12 or 1 o'clock
Yeah.
in the morning. So in the course of the day, we've had grown-ups to take care of children, to get them to school, to get them back, to assist with their homework, to help them in the after-school program, to feed them, to shower them. And now we still have meetings afterwards.
Mhm.
So that is only my life as a revolutionary and a house parent.
Right.
But if you have the Maccabees who stand security
Sure.
and watch over the people and watch over our institutions, that is another thing. So your question was, what did I want people to know that I did not touch upon?
Yes, ma'am.
That's just one of it. The details of life to life experience within the community of Jesus. And that's what we called it,
Right.
the community of Jesus.
Yeah. Isn't it we're 6 minutes past 2 hours. I'm blaming that on you. But it is absolutely amazing to me, Cardinal, that we've spoken for 4 hours and I'm thinking about all the stuff we didn't talk about. It's like there's so much. And that's why I asked the question when I talk about MOR, do you think we will ever see that level of commitment again? Because like you just said, it wasn't just MOR, it was everything that we did as a people trying to become a people to liberate and save our people. And when I hear Black people talking about nation building, I'm like, well, amen and kudos. But do you really know what that entails? Or do you know what that looks? Do you even know what that means?
Right.
And I would never say that you're wrong on how you are nation building, because, they might have their own recipe. But having been a part of an organization where, 7 days a week, your time ritual, you're doing something toward the liberation and salvation of Black people. I have an idea of what that entails if you're really trying to be free. And being a house parent, group leader, cardinal, mother, wife, I mean, Lord have mercy. That's a lot of stuff. So I am most certainly on a quest to ensure that as many Black people that I come into contact with, they not only know who Jaramogi was and what the Shrines of the Black Madonna was, but more importantly, for me, most importantly, this brother and his divine connection to a higher power, he gave us a mustard seed. He gave us a blueprint. And I've read that the mark of a good leader is the leader that he or she produces. He gave us some phenomenal leaders. So I'm not clueless.
Yes.
I'm not foggy. I'm not confused. I'm scared as hell. And I'm not sure if scared is the right word. But it's like like, knowing your path and your purpose, and you know what you're supposed to be doing, and you realize that's gonna be hard. So it's a lot. It's more than a notion. It's more than a notion. And unfortunately for me, I'm serious. So I'm not playing with what I know I have to do.
Yeah.
Everything that I've ever tried to do, I'm using it now.
Okay.
Everything from high school sports to the military to the church to the businesses, everything, it's all come to here. And I'm using that stuff to move this thing forward. So, on one hand, I'm extremely blessed and grateful for everything. And on the other hand, I'm realizing that I, along with other people I can find to help me do this, I have to pick up that baton where Jeramogi Baby left it. I got to pick that thing up and run my leg of the race. But I can't run it without fully understanding what he was trying to do, how he got us as far as he did, and all that stuff that you and the other leaders added to, because that's a lot.
It's a lot.
So I'm honored to have had the opportunity to know that somebody left me some blueprints to run my leg of the race. Now I got to go run it, and it's more than a notion.
It's more. It's way more than a notion.
I got all this energy for a reason.
Yes, you do.
And I'm gonna use it.
Yes. Yeah. Someone told me like the energy field can download into you. So
yes, ma'am.
Energy field is downloading into you, Tamani.
Well, I'm gonna take it and run with it. So, I might call you sometime and say, well, I'm supposed to turn left or right. And you can let me know, no, fool, turn right. I got it. Thank you. I'm good. All right. So with that, if anyone wants to know more information about Dr. Shelly McIntosh, please check out her website at www.shelly, SHELLEY, McIntosh, MCINTOSH.com. And you will see this sister again, because when I talked about, we're going to have a comeback to talk about every book, I was serious, because I think within the books, the reason why you wrote them is why we got to come back and not only talk about it, but we have to put you in an environment by which we can pay you for your expertise, because you have to teach us how to be revolutionaries. And that's important, because if we don't, we know that the white man's system recalibrates, and he's always on a quest for more and more power. He doesn't give a damn about our blackness at all. So we have to make sure that we use what we've been given, because we have things that we could do as well to counter his anti-life measures. Exactly. And as I say in the intro, we are not starting from square one. There are things that we can do to push back and create a better world for our people. And that's what it's all about. So with that, we are done. I appreciate it. As I said last night, well, before I say the last two things, anything else you want to add?
No, but thank you, Tamani. It's an honor that you invited me to do this. And I feel compelled to do this. So I appreciate it. And as I always say, the revolutionary Holy Spirit is born anew in each generation. And when you know that it is, it's more than a notion, but at least you know. So you have I got your back. Yeah. For any understanding, any explanation, I'm here to support you. And I want you to know that.
Amen. We're going to build this thing together and generate some revenue in the process, because Black people got money and we give it to everybody else. So
come on, please.
Give it back to the people. Give it back to the family, because the family need them dollars too. So we're going to work it out. So on that note, thank you very much, Cardinal. As I said last night, much love, much respect. And I sincerely, I sincerely believe that I am because you are, because God knows if there were no you, if there was no Cardinal Mbayu, no Cardinal Mutamaki, no Brother K-Fang, no Jeramogi Baby Ashiman, no Jeramogi Kimati, because there's some things that he did that helped us get to where we are at a certain point. So with that, thank you very much. God bless, and I'll be in touch. I appreciate it. Thank you.
God bless you too. Stay safe and healthy.
I will do my best.
Please.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.